Yeah. And this here is a Zimbabwe dollar. It's 10 million. It's just worth nothing.
Nothing.
No.
And this is the US dollar like this in a short while. And people are still saving toilet paper.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. People are that stupid. I can't believe it. Hello. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Radio Show, broadcasting from Phoenix, Arizona, where I always say it's either heaven or hell. And right now it's heaven. It'll soon be hell. It gets hot. And I'm very excited to have old friends, Karl and Bronagh Davidson. They're from Ireland, and they run the Cashflow Club there. It's now been about 10 years. I don't know how many people you can teach in 10 years. But what I am thrilled with is the purpose of the game was to bypass the school system, and people could teach people. Because I don't know how it is in Ireland, but right now, our school system is so messed up, man. School grades are going down. When they're going to teach us about money. So in 1996, my wife Kim and I created the Cashflow board game to bypass the school system, and we didn't know if it would work or not. But Karl and Bronagh Davidson, they teach it all over Ireland. I'm very proud, and thank you for teaching.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for having
Robert.
us on the show.
The 30-year anniversary of Cashflow 101.
Yeah. It's been an incredible journey.
And we were talking about this before we went on. Don't you learn more every time you teach?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the first time, Robert, that we ever got the game, Cashflow 101, I'll always remember it. We went to the west of Ireland. It was heaven or hell. It was hell. There was a big storm.
Yeah.
So we cracked open the game. I'll always remember we were in a little B&B. We opened it up. I was so excited to play. And Karl, literally, what did you do?
I went bankrupt in the first couple of turns.
Like
with my
literally 20
pre-program,
minutes, 20 minutes in,
Yeah.
bankrupt. So from that moment on, we've just been learning, either from our own playing or from, talking to and playing with other people. It's just been an incredible journey.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always remember the fact that I went bankrupt because I had that like aha moment where I was like, oh my God, this is the pre-programming that's, that I learned growing up through the school system, through the parents, through people all around me. And it was my biggest wake-up call because that was only bankrupt on a 3-bed, 2-bath house.
We're going.
You said the magic words, all of us are pre-programmed. Poor people are programmed to be poor, and rich are kind of programmed to be rich.
Yeah.
So the cash flow game, because it's a physical process, you have to actually numbers, erase, make mistakes and all that. It breaks up the old programming because it's very hard for a person from a poor family to get rich because it's their family heritage, their family culture goes with them. That's why so many professional athletes in America, they make millions of dollars, let's say a pro basketball player, but they're broke 6 years later. And it's because the old program has not changed. Money will not change it. So thank you for teaching the game.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Like, it's so funny because my programming growing up, my mom is a self-professed communist. Like, she loved communism. My dad is like old school Irish Republican, which is more socialist than it would be American Republican. And I would have grown up like definitely like a SJW, a social justice warrior. And then in 2015, I joined a network marketing company with a huge personal development program. And through that, I just like really learned to question my belief systems and just question everything really. And it was so funny. Anytime finances would come up, I would just shut off and just think about everything else that they had been talking about. And about a year in, I was like, okay, finally, I'll get this book they keep talking about, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And it just, my mind just exploded. Like my belief system was always like business and investing genuinely was for men in suits that have briefcases and they go to an office. And that wasn't for me. And I was okay with that. And just seeing the other side of the coin, like that just completely transformed my life. And then Karl's life, because I ended up introducing him to the book too. So
Yeah. So I actually listened to it in Japan of all places when I was on a work assignment there. And again, just completely eye opener. I just I was like, oh my God, because I did everything that society programmed me to do. I went to school, got good grades, have an electrical engineering degree, worked in big semiconductor companies all across the world. And this was like, for me, I was like, oh, this is the other side of the coin that nobody talks about, or at least very little people talk about.
No one in our circle.
Well, that's, teaching is how you get smarter. I mean, I learn something new every time for me. But one of the things I find interesting is watching, a new guy. They've never played the game before. And it's kind of, it's interesting, it's painful, it's sad, it's hysterical.
Mm.
And I remember this. I mean, some of the mistakes that people make, it's incredible. Like they draw a card, they got a $1 stock, and if playing the game so many times, the dollar stock's the best. They got this dollar stock, they'll say, I'll take 5.
Yeah.
And they should just back up the truck, but they're so afraid of losing.
Mm.
If they don't play that game, they stay losers. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
So that's one lesson.
Or they get like a real estate card and they just get really into the nitty gritty and like overthinking everything. And everything is such a huge decision. Like it's so fascinating. We've had teenagers play, like in the last 10 years, we've had people that work for one of the largest banks in Ireland. We have property investors, like the average Joe. We have everyone coming in to play with us. And it's just so fascinating. Every single one of them is just mind blown. Like even the person who worked for one of the largest banks, she said, all my university, everything that I've done in my work, I've learned more in the last 4 or 5 hours than I have in all of that time. Like it's just phenomenal. Like you learn so much from the people that you play with as well. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of that game, was people teaching people and learning, and they're learning. And it's because you can always learn more. I think one of the valuable lessons, not to get political, but right now we have a war, thanks to Trump going on in Iran. And, people are crying the blues, going, inflation because the price of oil goes up. And I'll just buy more oil.
Yeah.
I sold a piece of real estate for $1.6 million US, and I bought $1.6 million in oil property. So I got richer and richer and richer.
Yeah.
While crying the blues about inflation and all that, and they should, but they don't teach you that. You don't have to be poor. No matter what Donald Trump does, or Sinn Féin does, or IRA does, or the Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't make any difference what they do.
Exactly.
What you do makes a difference. Right? Is that true?
That's something that I always say, to people, to clients, to everyone. It's like, create your economy within the economy. Left wing, right wing, same bird, so just create your economy within the economy.
And I was listening to your interview that you had earlier this month with Richard Duncan, and you were talking about macroeconomy. And as I was listening to that, I was thinking, that's why it's so important for people to create their own microeconomy, and to create your own bubble that you can live in. And that's true. The teachings that you have, and like being able to sit on the edge of the coin and to see both sides and to make decisions based on that. And that's something that you've always said and said for years, like, be prepared for a crash. Like, things can happen, and that's the time to like really like market that and to get rich when things go wrong, really.
Yeah.
It's interesting when I talk to poor people. I mean, highly educated poor people. My family, highly educated poor people. Their brains are stuck. I mean, it's their thoughts that make them poor.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be. Just change the way you think, just look at different things and all this. And like 2008, there was a huge crash in America, real estate crash.
Yeah.
I made so much money in that crash. And then now this is 2026 now. And Nostradamus and what's his name? Edgar Casey said 2026 is going to be a massive crash. I don't care.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
exactly.
And I think that's what being rich means, that you don't care.
Yeah,
Because it
yeah.
just stop you. So what have I want you to think about this. So who are some of the funniest people you've tried to teach the game to? You
I
know,
actually, yeah, I have a good,
characters
yeah,
playing the game. I
I
just
had, go ahead.
I had this one guy cheating. He was he was a stockbroker. So he was taking out all the real estate cards and hiding them. And, so what I always say, games reflect your behavior.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This guy was a crook. Yeah.
That's it. Like money definitely amplifies who you are. So the game reflects that. When you play the game, you're just seeing a mirror of yourself, and it's
Yes.
just how you deal with money. Like, are you going to retreat? Are you going to be indecisive? Are you going to let opportunities pass by? You know, one time we were playing, and the aim of the game is to increase your expenses, and or sorry, not to increase your expenses, increase your passive income, and basically get out of your out of the rat race. And I just was fixated on one guy who basically just wanted to pay off his home mortgage. That was his program, was like, I just want to pay off the home mortgage. I'm like, but why? That's not the aim of the game, you know? But he just kept on going and kept on going. And that was a win for him, but it's not the aim of the game.
We actually have a rule, Robert, when we're playing a game, that if someone comes with someone else, so whether it's a friend or it's a partner, they have to sit on different tables.
Yes.
Because we've had instances where best friends are like arguing with each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
couples are arguing because they have completely different belief systems when it comes to money, and they're like wives are saying to their husbands or vice versa, like, why are you doing that? Don't be doing that. And we don't want that. We want
Yeah.
people to have their own experience and to be able to actually see a reflection of their own belief system. So we separate them
Yeah.
also for ourselves, just to like prevent any arguments. But actually, a big learning that we had, we were playing one time with a real estate investor. He's pretty big here in Ireland. And it was something silly, like one of us had a card we didn't want, but we wanted to sell to the other one. And we're trying to negotiate a deal. And I was being stubborn and Carl was being stubborn. I mean, he was just like, just do the deal.
Do the
And like
deal.
that's something that has ingrained in our mind for so long. Like
Yeah.
we ended up like not doing anything and the two of us lost out. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't make any sense. So like we learn, we teach them and they teach us.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
So what Karl and Bronagh is saying is that the game reflects you.
Yeah.
You know, it reflects what you do in real life. And so if you want to change what you do in real life, play the game to go, oh, man, I should change this. Like I still crack up that guy had $1 stock. And he says, I'll take 10. I'm going,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I've had other people, they borrow as much money as they can so they can buy as many dollar stocks as possible.
Yeah.
But that reflects their behavior. And until you look at yourself, you can't change yourself. So that's the power of the game.
Yeah.
You created a space where people really can, challenge their belief systems and test and trial different
Yes, that's a big one.
objectives. Yeah.
You know, because when you do fail, obviously fail is like the acronym first attempt in learning. So when you play the game for the first time and you're indecisive, you don't want to make a decision, or you decide not to make a decision, which is still making a decision, and you don't do the deal, you don't make more money, then you can see yourself as like a failure. So it's so fascinating.
Yeah. Again, games reflect behavior, and that's the cash flow board game back there. And when we come back, we'll be talking more to Karl and Bronagh Davidson.
If you want to be a rich investor, you have to see the future. And seeing the future right now is not that hard. Governments will never stop printing money, which means the national debt only goes up, which means inflation only goes up, which means savers of dollars keep losing by design. And then there's the war. What's happening in the Middle East is not a political conflict. It's a holy war. Christians and Jews against Muslims. Holy wars don't end, which means oil prices only go up. More oil, more inflation, more pressure on your dollars. For decades, they told you to go to school, get a job, save money, put it all in a 401k full of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. That is the Kool-Aid. If something can be printed, it's fake. Real gold and real silver are real. Gold hit over $5,000 in 2026, and even with recent dips, JP Morgan and Wells Fargo still forecast $6,300 by the end of the year. The smart money is not debating whether gold goes higher. The debate is how high. Priority Gold's free Rich Dad Wealth Defense Guide shows you exactly how to move your IRA and 401k into physical gold and silver, tax and penalty free, with up to $10,000 in free silver on qualifying purchases. Call 866-703-9895 now. That's 866-703-9895. Or text GUIDE to 24999 or click the link in the description below. Don't save the thing they're printing. Own the things they can't and get in before gold soars to $6,300. Get your free Rich Dad Wealth Defense Guide now to learn 3 easy steps to add gold to your portfolio, tax and penalty free. Call 866-703-9895, text GUIDE to 24999, or click the link in the description below.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Radio Show. Once again, broadcasting from Phoenix, Arizona. Our guests today are Karl and Bronagh Davidson. They're the Cashflow Club of Ireland. 10 years now they've been teaching. And we're talking about not only do you learn, you personally learn every time you teach, you actually learn more by watching the person in front of you playing the game, and because people's games reflect your behavior. And it's important today because look at the turmoil in the world. I mean, this is incredible. And inflation is going to go up because of this war in the Middle East, which we all know is a holy war. It's, Jews and Christians versus Muslims plus oil.
Yeah.
But we're talking about this here is fake money. This is a $5 bill. This is toilet paper.
Yeah.
And this here is a 1964 quarter.
Nice.
So a lot of times, here's 25 cents. And I'll show this off here. And I'll go to a store. I said, which one do you want? Do you want this? Or do you want this? They always take this.
Yeah.
And this is worth $10. This is only $5 because this is a silver.
Yeah.
Are you saving silver too?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what, Robert? So in 2017,
Yeah, not 2018.
we moved to China.
Yeah.
And we came into it with some money and we were like, what are we going to do with this money? So we decided to contact the Rich Dad company and we signed up for a course. And from that course, we decided to use the rest of the money to invest in silver. So at that time, a 5 kilo bar was around €2,500.
Yeah.
Right now it would be how much?
Upwards of 10, 12,000.
€1,000. So at that time, our goal was to have enough silver that it was the same weight as me. So I wanted literally my weight in silver. And then we ticked off that goal. So I was very happy with that. So yeah, we've been invested in silver heavily since 2018.
Yeah. Reason being was also it's a practical metal. So with my semiconductor engineering background, I realized that it's used in so much consumer products like laptops, phones, everything, data centers. And I was like, this just makes practical sense. It's a precious metal. It's, when we started getting silver ounces, they were like €30. Now they're up at, close to €100, which is just fiat currency. And then we just started buying like kilos and kilos. And, we just went heavy on silver because it's used in all industries as well. So it just
God's money. It just makes sense.
Yeah. And this here is a Zimbabwe dollar. It's 10 million. It's just worth
nothing.
And this is the US dollar like this in a short while. And people are still saving toilet paper.
Yeah.
It makes people are that stupid. I can't believe it.
I just find it so sad though. My dad would have been 90 this year. He was like 65 when he had me. He was the youngest of his family. And so proper old school, born in 1936. So like learning, he was very frugal man, but like literally born during the war, like rationing, all that sort of stuff. And like when I think of the savers being losers. I think of people like my dad, but obviously like there's new versions of my dad now, which is our age as well. But I
Yeah.
just actually think it's so tragic. And that's
Mm.
why I think it's so important that the books that you've released, the game, like the Cashflow board game, that people, as many people as possible, get their hands on them to be able to see the other side of the coin and
Yeah.
to be able to understand that savers are losers.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about that game. Is you teach, you learn.
Mm.
And if you teach, you watch other people learn, but you also learn why they're broke.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? You can see they're stuck.
Yeah.
Like you have job security. I'm going, but AI's coming. I
Mm.
mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I must get out of debt. I said, well, the dollar is debt. U.S. bonds are debt.
Mhm.
The person has no financial education. And then another thing is that, Dave Ramsey, he's a big famous guy here. He says, we're
Yeah.
in debt. Well, if we don't borrow money, the economy stops.
Exactly.
The economy runs on debt.
Yeah. We need that. Yeah.
We need debt. So, I just had a piece of property in northern Arizona here. I just refinanced it. And as we increased the value of the property, we didn't sell it. We borrowed out the equity. It was
Mm.
1
Mhm.
million. And I just gave it to my oil friend, 1 million to buy
Yeah.
oil. And then the war broke out. Iran, going, thank you, God. The oil goes up, so I get richer. But when the
Mm.
price of oil goes up, the poor and middle class get poorer.
Yeah.
Because life gets more expensive for all that oil going up. They can't afford chicken and eggs and all that stuff. So it's really a kind of a tragic time for millions of people because their information in their heads is old.
Exactly.
Job security, save money, get out of debt, invest in the stock market. That's old information. So
Yeah.
that's what you're watching when you're training people to think differently,
Yeah. And even here, like it wouldn't be as bad as America, like in the
Not
sense
yet.
that no, but what I mean is like we have like free education for
Yeah.
the most part and stuff. Whereas I know over there's like really bad student loans. Like people are just getting into so much debt and like
Mm.
like really specializing into a niche that could just be completely eradicated. So, I really do feel for Americans and like your medical expenses, everything. Like it's not comparable to Ireland. And I mean, like it's bad in Ireland. We have a housing crisis, we have everything, but like I am aware that in America it's just so much harder as well. And that's why it's even more important for people to really think about things and question their beliefs.
You know what I'm
Like,
watching here is the explosion of homelessness.
Yes.
Homelessness is exploding. The same thing happened in Ireland.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Record numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like obviously with the Ukraine and Russia war, we have a lot of Ukrainians here in Ireland. Like there's been a lot of like modular homes built for them.
My concerns is you look at this war in Iran. I went to Vietnam twice. War is terrible. But the price of oil goes up, so I'm getting richer. But as the price of oil goes up, we already have in America very serious homeless problem. And the reason is that people have jobs. They just can't afford the rent, or much less buy a house, or they can't afford the insurance, or they can't afford the electricity. So every time we print money, inflation goes up and the rich get richer, but the poor and middle class get poor. Like I show this here, $5 bill, $5 bill, Zimbabwe 10 million or 25 cents, which is worth more.
Yeah.
This one. And the reason is because they keep printing this stuff here. And people still go to school, they save money, they get out of debt, they want job security, and they're getting wiped out.
Yeah.
Because we have no financial education, which is why we have a Cashflow board game. So I was just asking the question, is there any homelessness or things growing in Ireland too? Because it's
Yeah.
exploding in America.
Yeah. Record homelessness.
Yeah. There always
trend
have
where-
been like a housing crisis, they call it here in Ireland.
Yeah.
But right now it's just through the roof, like people in their 30s still living with their parents. Like they may be under a roof, but they're still technically homeless. There's a lot of whatever your your thoughts are on immigration, but there is a lot of immigration happening through the EU into Ireland. There is a law that we have to house people that are brought into Ireland, but that doesn't apply to Irish people. So yeah, it's very tough literally here on the streets in Ireland. The weather wouldn't be great. Thank God we're coming out of winter for a lot of people, but there'll be a lot of homelessness, whether they're under a roof or they're not.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have fond memories of Ireland. I went there to play rugby. I played rugby in England. I played rugby at Blackheath, played at Twickenham, and that's my favorite sport. And the Irish are just really strong this year. Boy, they're strong. Irish rugby team. So that's why I wore the Hawaii Harlequins rugby team shirt.
We appreciate it, Rob. Thank you.
We'll get you an Ireland rugby shirt. We'll send one over.
Oh, I would treasure it. I would treasure it. Also, the thing that I'm always amazed at when I teach is how people do their best to stay poor. They just stay poor because it's stuck up here. And the game kind of breaks that up. And yet people would rather stay poor. It doesn't make sense to me. And they know AI is coming.
Yeah.
They know the national debt of America. I mean, America alone, the national debt is 39 trillion. They're printing 1 trillion of these every 100 days now in America. And they still save this when this is Zimbabwe dollar. And I think this is the future of probably the euro and probably the US dollar. And they still save this stuff. So what do you guys say to that? Because being from the EU area.
One of the best ways to fight all of this is to actually get yourself financially educated and start accumulating as many assets as possible. Like get yourself in around the network of people, listen to people, get onto the Rich Dad radio show. Just surround yourself with people that have what you want, and you'll grow that way. You'll just be a sponge to take it all in.
I think a lot of it though, Robert, what you're talking about is like fear. I think people are so fearful and they're just like so stuck on their core beliefs that they've had growing up and like what's popular in the media and what the news outlets like tell you. And with the EU, it's so funny because a few years ago, obviously we had Brexit going on and everyone was like, oh my God, the UK, they're crazy. Why would they have to want to do Brexit? All this sort of stuff. And then what's kind of transpired with the EU since then, I'm nearly thinking like, oh God, like, maybe we'll want to get out of the EU, but like, you don't really know what's going on. And it's like, who's actually controlling what and all that sort of stuff. It is very kind of crazy over here as well to be part of such a huge group. Obviously, there's so many benefits to being in the EU, but also it's like, how much control do we as a country actually have, So
Yeah.
I've heard Germany's in serious trouble because their price of energy is so high.
Yeah.
And, if Germany's in trouble, Japan's in trouble because of debt. U.S. is in trouble because of debt. And AI is coming along to wipe out jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't how people can just be complacent, do nothing. So that's what kind of concerns me the most. I think the most important thing is that it doesn't make a difference what your leaders do.
Yeah.
Trump can do what he does. EU can do what they do. You can still get rich no matter what they do. The price of oil goes up, you get rich. The price of oil goes down, you get rich. It doesn't matter if you have education. So anyway, I want to think final words because 1 minute left. What's the final word from Ireland?
Robert, it's like you always say playing Monopoly, but for us it's playing cash flow. Like we're really kind of like in our real lives trying to play the game, and it's completely transformed the way that we even literally turning our home into an asset. So we created an apartment at the home to pay for the house itself.
Turn the liability into an asset.
Yeah,
exactly. And we wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much, and thank you from all of the members of Cashflow Club Ireland.
Is that the best thing? Don't you have new friends too?
Oh, 100%. Completely different conversations that we're having. Like it's just
new deals, new opportunities.
But our network is completely different now than it would have been.
All my friends changed. Because from my family who their value system's different than mine. but my friends have the same value system because we all play the same game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest difference. So I think your greatest asset is your brain, but also your friends and, education. So I want to thank you all the way from Ireland, 10 years. I appreciate it. Thank you for teaching. But as you know, the more you teach, the more you learn, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So thank you, Karl and Bronagh Davidson. And we'll be right back for Rich Dad's final words. Welcome back. I want to thank the people from Ireland and the Cashflow Club. And I'll just reiterate it. We created the Cashflow game back in 1996 so people could teach people. You bypass the school system. But the benefits are you don't really care which way the economy is going because you'll get rich. You don't care what your politicians are doing because you're still going to get rich. And most importantly, you meet great friends. And so my friends have totally changed from the old friends I used to have who were, clinging through job security, trying to save money, thinking that Republican or Democrat would make a difference in office and worried about Trump, Trump psychosis and all this other stuff. It really doesn't make any difference except what you have behind here. So I want to thank you all from our fans from Ireland. I appreciate you guys all that. And thank you all for watching the Rich Dad Radio Show. Thank you.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.